For today's lesson, we're going to construct a box and whisker plot. And you're going to notice the vocabulary words here are certain points on the graph. So we're going to go ahead and label those points. So I'm going to start with the lower extreme and the upper extreme. And we're going to put a point here. This is our lower extreme, and this is our upper extreme. So we're going to look for numbers. And of course, that would mean the highest number and the lowest number in our data. The next important point would be the median, and it's also referred to as the second quartile point. So this is the median of all the data. So we're going to put that, it's going to be a point inside the box. Next, we need a first quartile and third quartile point, and those are medians of the lower and upper half of the data. And so that is where the end of the box is on both sides, or the beginning of the whisker, or end of the whisker, depending on which view you're looking at. And last, I want to talk about the interquartile range. Interquartile range has to do with these points. So it's just to do interquartile means that I'm working with the inside quarters. So from this point to this point, we'll be talking about the range, not the full range of all the data. So now let's go ahead and try to make a box and whisker plot. So for this page, it says we're going to use the data below and follow each step. So here's our data. And so the very first direction says arrange the data in order from least to greatest. So go ahead and pause this video and arrange the data on your paper. After you've arranged your data, always double check to make sure every number's been accounted for. I counted the numbers and have 16, and I also have 16 numbers that I've listed. So next, we're going to find the lower extreme, which is 17. So we're going to write 17. And then we're going to find our upper extreme, which is 58. Those are going to be part of the whisker, beginning and the end. Next, we're going to find the median, which is the second quartile, the middle point on the data. So we're going to do that by crossing off until we find the middle number. So one from each end. And we just continue this process until we get to the middle numbers. So you can see that we have two middle numbers. So we're trying to find the middle of these two middle numbers. And so we can either use our logic, or if I added these two numbers together, we would get 68. And then we'd take 68 and divide it by 2, divide that in half. And so our median is 34. And if you look at it, it makes sense. If I add 3 to 31, I get 34. And if I take away 3 from 37, I also get 34. So 34 splits this data in half. So now the next direction says find the first quartile, the median of the lower half of the data. So I have these numbers to work with. I have 17, 19, 21, 26. That's 4 numbers, 28, 28, 31, and 31 again. So we have 8 numbers here to work with because 34 splits the data in half. So once again, we're going to start by crossing off from each side. So this until we get to the middle. And once again, we're in a situation where there's 2 middle numbers. So we're looking for what's halfway between 26 and 28. And using our logic, that number is 27. So our first quartile number is 27. And we're going to do the same thing with the second half of the data. And we're going from 37 to 58. So we're going to cross off 1 from each side till we get to the middle. And again, we find ourselves with 2 numbers in the middle. Now this is a little bit different, 44 plus 45. If we added those 2 numbers together, I added 44 plus 45, and you probably already know what this answer is. I'm going to get 99, and then I'm going to have to take 99 and divide it by 2. So I'm going to get 44 and 5/10, or 44 and a half. So sometimes it happens with our data. So that's halfway in between. So 44 and 5/10. So we are now ready to make our box and whisker because we have these 5 key points that we need. So direction 7 says draw a number line based on the data scale. Well, if I go from 17 to 58 and I'm trying to create the most accurate graph, ideally I'd like to have a scale of 1. However, this is a pretty good spread of numbers. I need at least 40 to 45 numbers in order to display this data, and that's going to be cumbersome to break this into 45 little pieces. Next, a scale of 2 would be the next accurate. I'm going from 17 to 58, so I could start at 16 and go up to 60. But again, that's going to be at least 20 to 23 or so numbers I'm going to have to break this number line in. So I think I'm going to choose a scale of 5. And from 17 to 58, I think I'm going to start a number below at 15 and go number above at 60. So I'm using a scale of 5. So let's count and find out how many lines I need on my number line, starting at 15. That's a little bit smaller than 17. So 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60 will get me a little bit above this, and that's 10 lines. So we're going to start breaking our number line into 10 as evenly as we can pieces. And I'm going to go ahead and extend the line a little bit, give us a little bit more room. Now we want a number, and remember we start with 15, 20, 25. Okay, so now we have our number line. The next part is to locate our 5 pieces, and because our number line is not as, we're going to have to estimate. So between 15 and 20 would be 17. It would be a little bit closer to 15 than it is to 20, and I'm making these points above the number line. Our upper extreme is 58, so that's just a tad bit closer to 60. Those are our upper and lower extreme numbers. Next, I'm going to go to the median, which is 34. So a little bit below, a little bit below 35. There's my median point. Then we're going to plot our first quartile number of 27 and our third quartile point of that lovely 44 and 5/10. So that's going to be pretty close to 45. So these points are plotted above the line and hopefully horizontally aligned as best as possible. So now we're going to put a box around our second and third quartile. Sometimes, we put a line, and I prefer the line of nose box and whisker plots that do not have a line through the median, but I like to see it. It helps me read it. And then finally, I want to attach a whisker that connects the box. So this is our first attempt at making a box and whisker plot. And again, because of our scale, it would be a little bit difficult to tell whether this is 16 or 17, or perhaps this 57 or 58. And most accurately, it'd be helpful if we had enough room to write a line that had the scale of 1. So I'd like you to try the next one on your own. Take care, and thanks for listening.